What's up, guys? This is Z House from Gun Gamers, and holy shit, right? I'm actually making a new sit-down video. It's been a little bit, but obviously, things being the way they are in the world right now, I've got a free day and I've got some time. So I hope you're all staying safe and sane under current quarantine and social distancing guidelines, and I hope that I will get to see everyone back on the airsoft field sooner rather than later. But I figured that while I'm sitting at home stuck and not able to actually play airsoft, I should talk about it. So here's a subject that I have some thoughts on that was spurred by this little piece of gear. If you don't know what this is the new PTS EPM1. It is the new mid capacity, high capacity, I don't know. It's a new magazine from PTS, and it holds 252 BBs without winding. I have a review of this that I'll be filming today as well, but before I did that review, I wanted to address the elephant in the room that a lot of people have been asking. Is this a mid cap anymore, and will this affect the rules at MilSim games? And I actually have an opinion that I know a few people share, but I think some people will probably disagree with, but I wanted to elaborate my thoughts on it. And I don't necessarily think magazine capacity matters all that much at a MilSim game. I actually think that magazine capacity and magazine restrictions are on the lower end of the totem pole for things that really help control the flow of gunfights, because there are a lot of other things that MilSim games can and do implement that really make it so that regardless of what magazine a rifleman is using, there's always going to be trade-offs compared to LMGs, and there's always going to be other ways that the game can be not broken by the introduction of a new mag with 25% more capacity than anything else on the market. So I figured I would elaborate my thoughts on that today. So obviously the concern is, well, now you have riflemen at these games using magazines that are borderline high caps, and most MilSim games are restricted to mid-capacity, non-winding type magazines only. So you get something like this that has 50 rounds more capacity than any other mid-cap that's really been introduced before. And now, of course, you have some of the MilSim crowd going, well, what the hell? Is this going to be allowed? Is this going to ruin the games? Is this going to make riflemen overpowered? And my answer to that is no. And my reasons for my answer being no, and my reasons for thinking that I don't anticipate many MilSim event promoters restricting these magazines, is because there are so many other things within the rule sets of MilSim games that really control the flow of the game, just aside from one rifleman's or even a squad of riflemen's magazine capacity. So let's say I'm going to use AMS as an example of like your normal, non-continuous, non-full immersion MilSim game, because that's the rule set I'm most familiar with. And then we've got something like MilSim West, which is your 40-hour total immersion MilSim game. Or even, this isn't MilSim, but you've got Omega Productions, which is the post-apocalyptic LARP game that I do a lot of stuff with, which Revenant was just postponed, and god damn it, I'm sad about that. Anyway, with games like that, all of them have magazine restrictions. So at American MilSim, if I recall correctly, you are restricted to a total of 7 non-winding mid-capacity type magazines on your person as a rifleman. And then obviously you've got machine gunners who can use box mags. So that's where you get the advantage of being a machine gunner, where you have a box mag and you can actually carry, I believe, 2 box mags at AMS. And then you've got your riflemen who are just stuck with normal magazines. Riflemen are also limited to semi-auto. And for that reason, I don't think that just this magazine really gives riflemen that big of an advantage over machine gunners, because that's really the purpose of these rules. It's more to make it so that machine gunners and other specialty roles have a purpose, because riflemen can't do it all, or at least not do it all as effectively. So while you might say, well, now a rifleman is going to have 7 250 round mags, that puts him at 1750 BBs, or almost 2,000 if we want to round up. So now you've got the better part of 2,000 BBs on your person as a rifleman, all contained in these magazines. but you can only dispense them on semi-auto, and you can only dispense them, again, in those increments of 250. Whereas you take an LMG, something like a PKM has a 5,000 BB capacity in one box mag. And as I recall, if I really should have studied the rule set before filming this video, but as I recall, they're also allowed to carry at least one more box mag. So your machine gunner still can have like 10,000 BBs and disperse them in 5,000 BB increments on full auto. So that's where you really get into, this doesn't break that dynamic, I don't think. Your machine gunners still have a lot more ammo, they can dispense it a lot more quickly, and they can dispense it a lot more conveniently. Now, would I say that riflemen should have 500 round mags? No, but that's why you've got non-winding type restrictions. So while this form factor is able to boost the effectiveness of a rifleman just a little bit, it still doesn't nerf the machine gun role, and I think that that's really the purpose of a lot of these types of rule sets, and that's really what's going to control the flow of the game. Because if you've ever actually been to a MilSim game, machine guns and specialty roles can really set the pace of an engagement. Now, of course, it'll be the argument that it upsets game balance because let's say you've got a squad of guys equipped with these EPM1s versus a squad of guys who aren't. Maybe they've got the original EPMs. They've got 100 less BBs per mag, which then would mean they have 700 less BBs per person if they're extrapolating from a full load. And then from a squad, that could mean they've got 7,000 less BBs total if you've got a squad of 10. So that can definitely be an imbalanced situation, but the problem that you're looking at there isn't necessarily that the game is wrong for not banning these magazines. The problem you're looking at there is that someone's equipment did kind of put them at a disadvantage. But there's a lot of other ways that you can counter, oh man, this squad's got a lot more ammo than us. You can counter that with positioning, with tactics, with really good communication, with specialty roles that you employ well, because that ammo difference still doesn't make up if you've got a good saw gunner who's got 10,000 BBs. So I don't think that this is necessarily going to break the game too much. And especially as these proliferate, I don't think you'll run into too many situations where one whole squad has all these and then another whole squad has like 100 or 120 round magazines and that becomes broken because all other things are equal in the gunfight. All other things are never equal, and you do have to learn how to make the most of whatever equipment you have. Or if you feel like your equipment puts you at a disadvantage, there is kind of an expectation that you sort it out and make it work. So while that probably sounds a little bit like, oh, well, just stop being poor, get good, scrub, it's more of there's a lot you can do even with more limited tools. Then, of course, we run into a game like MilSim West, where MilSim West is this full immersion, continuous experience, and you are dependent on your squad and your platoon's ammo supply. And this is where I think it actually gets really interesting, because I've heard some people say, well, I would never want to see these used at MilSim West. It ruins the realism of the game because now people have way too much ammo. Not necessarily true. And the reason that's not necessarily true is because you are still limited by how much ammo you can actually get from command. So let's say that you've got a few PTS EPM1s. Well, your normal rifleman load starting at MilSim West is 500 BBs. So you can fill up 2 of these mags. And sure, you've got that 500 BBs in 2 mags as opposed to 3 if you had more traditional magazines, or maybe even 4. But that does mean that your total ammo count and your total ability to be effective in whatever situations you're in is still limited by the inherent factor of I only have X amount of ammo, and regardless of how fast I can dispense it without reloading, I only have X amount of ammo. And that's really what limits you. And again, at MilSim West especially, blank fire, pyro, and machine gunners really can set the pace of a lot of fights, and you still are never going to have the same continuous fire capacity as a well-tuned LMG. That's just not a thing that you can really accomplish as well. Now, I could see the appeal of using something like this in almost an IAR type role, and I think that that would be very interesting to explore. I don't have enough to have much opinion on doing that. I haven't done that, but there is definitely an argument to be made. But again, you're still limited by how much ammo you get. And it's not like you can just get more and more and more ammo and just rearm totally and fill up all your magazines every time you go back to the FOB or the PB or whatever the fuck you want to call it. You have only a certain amount of ammo for the game. If you've ever been to one of the MilSim West games where your faction starts running low on ammo and it's Saturday night and you know that you've still got a lot of game left, that's nerve-wracking. So regardless of how much you can put in one magazine, you still need to control the flow of your ammunition outward and make sure that everything is having a good effect, because you're going to run out of ammo otherwise. And that's something that no magazine is going to change about an experience like that. And it's the same at something like Omega, you know, the post-apocalyptic LARP. At Omega, you are restricted to a total of 300 BB magazine capacity. So yeah, you can have one of these and nothing else. So even though you can continuously put out 250 BBs, you can only do so for so long because of your total capacity restriction. It's not like you can strap 4 of these to your rig in an Omega game. They don't do a magazine count restriction. They do a BB count capacity restriction. And I actually think that that might be a good way for people to nerf something like this if they want to. If an event promoter says, okay, you know what, the fact that people can have so much ammo is breaking my game, I think a good solution to that would be to change the total amount of ammo capacity instead of the total number of magazines. So let's say, you know, AMS decides we don't want people having almost 1,800 BBs worth of ammo in their rifles. Let's cap it at 1,200 or 1,500. You're still going to limit the amount of ammo that people can have. And I think that that's way more important than actually limiting the magazines themselves. Now, again, people will make the argument, well, then Eric, why not just use high caps? To which I say, you know, there's an argument to be made there. I personally don't like high caps, especially when something like this exists, but that's my opinion, and that's a topic for a whole nother video. Actually, no, it's a topic for right now. I think the reason high caps are easier to restrict than something like this is because high caps can go so far up there in capacity. You know, you've got 800, 1,000 round winding high caps, or you could have, you know, M4s running drum mags, and that would totally break the immersion of the game. Whereas this still looks and operates like a normal magazine and still isn't insane. Like, it's not gonna break the game because it's 25% ammo capacity increase rather than 50 to 100% ammo capacity increase. I think that's really the difference, and I think that's why it's easier to defend something like this. Maybe you disagree. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. You know, obviously this is airsoft game design, so we're all just nerds nerding out about our opinions on stuff. So let's have some fun topical discussion. But circling back to my thoughts about using one of these at something like an Omega game where your total ammo capacity is restricted. Again, you might be able to output 300 BBs or 250 BBs all at once without reloading, but you're still limited by the BBs you can get. And especially at something like an Omega game where ammunition supply is not reliable and you have to use a lot more than your gun to be able to actually play the game, I don't think this really breaks that game. I don't think this really makes it something that it isn't supposed to be. You know, you're not going to be running and gunning and gunfighting because then you won't be able to trade with anyone for ammo. You're only going to be engaging when you need to, you know, regardless of what's in your mag. So, yeah, I guess my point is that there's a lot of other ways that games can limit the Rambo factor of individual players above and beyond limiting magazine capacity, but magazine capacity is a factor. But when I look at the EPM1 and everyone's saying that it's going to break the balance of a lot of games, I don't necessarily agree. And if it does upset the balance of too many games, I think there's a very easy solution to fix it. Like I said, the restricting overall magazine capacity. I think that would be a good way to do it. That's just my opinion anyway. Those are my thoughts based on what I've observed, based on what I've seen play in the game. Maybe you have different thoughts. Maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think I'm an idiot. Maybe you think my face is ugly. There's a YouTube comments section down below. Leave whatever you think down below. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I said, stay safe and sane. The world is crazy right now, but at least we've got airsoft to look forward to once this all clears up. I look forward to seeing you guys in the field. So this is Z-House from Gun Gamers. I'm signing off. Peace.
Thank you for watching this video from Gun Gamers. We hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. Check the description below if you'd like to buy a t-shirt or a patch, and use the coupon code JUDY10 for 10% off of your next order at Amped Airsoft. Thank you again for watching, and praise Judy.